As the second best-selling model in the Honda portfolio, the Civic certainly has the important task of attracting a younger entry-level buyer into showrooms. Now, thankfully, the company delivered an even better Civic when they introduced the all-new 11th generation back in 2022, adding even more power, even more technology, and even more refinement. Now, for 2025, Honda is doubling down on fuel efficiency with the return of the Civic Hybrid. As you guys know, the Hybrid has been absent from the Civic lineup for a few years. However, it returns with a vengeance, with up to 200 horsepower and up to 50 mpg in the city. So as you can see this week, Honda has essentially loaned us the flagship Civic model that isn't a Type R. This is a 2025 Civic Hybrid Sport Touring Hatchback, because as you guys know, the Hybrid is now available in both sedan and hatchback configurations. And the big question I want answered, if you guys are looking for the ultimate efficient commuter car, but you aren't willing to give up driving dynamics, how does the latest version of the Civic Hybrid Sport Touring Hatchback stack up? Stay tuned to find out. So as most of you guys know, we haven't seen a Civic Hybrid branded vehicle here in America for about a decade. So with the return of this powertrain, let's first start off, of course, with what's going on underneath the hood. This is, again, the same 2-liter, 2-motor hybrid system that you find in both the Accord and in the CR-V. Now here underneath the hood of the Civic, it does make a little bit less power, but not that much less power. So what we have here is a naturally aspirated 2-liter 4-cylinder engine that has direct injection that runs on the Atkinson cycle. It has variable valve timing, but not VTEC. This engine lacks the trademark Honda VTEC variable valve lift system. However, the engine on its own delivers around 141 horsepower, but it is aided by a two-motor electric or a 2-motor hybrid system. Basically, there's an electric motor that functions as a generator to recharge the 1.1 kilowatt-hour lithium-ion battery pack. And then there's a second electric motor that functions as a traction drive, which essentially provides power to the front wheels. Civic Hybrids remain only front-wheel drive. The electric motor on its own delivers 181 horsepower and 232 pound-feet of torque. Honda says the combined output figure of both the gas and the hybrid powertrain is 200 horsepower, which is the most that you're going to find in the compact hybrid sedan or hatchback segment. And torque is that same 232 pound-feet. You essentially cannot combine the torque figure of the gas engine and the electric motor together. It all goes out through a unique transmission. It's technically a direct drive transmission, but it functions as an eCVT and it offers different levels of regen braking. We'll talk about how it drives later on during the driving scene. And fuel economy is very impressive. This is rated at 50 in the city and 45 on the highway, 48 mpg combined. That's on regular gas, of course. This has a 10.5 gallon fuel tank, about 10.6 gallons. It's about 2 gallons smaller versus the non-hybrid version of the Civic hatchback. Now, with that fuel tank capacity, you should be looking at just under 500 miles of range on a full tank. And Honda doesn't quote a 0 to 60 time. When we first tested this vehicle out in Tennessee, we got 6.9 seconds. So we'll see what we can get here on our actual usual stretch of road. Top speed for this vehicle should be around 125 miles per hour-ish. That's just my estimation. And as this car sits, it is the heaviest version of the Civic, weighing in at just under 3,300 pounds. Now, closing the hood, let's go ahead and talk about the exterior styling of this 2025 Honda Civic hatchback. As you can see, my particular tester is painted in a beautiful color. This is called Boost Blue. It's an extra $455. This is a color that Honda first introduced a couple of years ago on the Type R, and it's one of my favorite blue colors, especially in the Honda portfolio. You can see it has a beautiful metallic sparkle to it. It just looks great along the lines of the 11th generation Civic. You can see all models come with full LED headlights, although they are the reflector style. They're an LED low and high beam, LED daytime running light, LED turn signals. No LED fog lights on this vehicle, and as you can see, Honda gave the Civic lineup a slight refresh for 2025. That includes an updated grille that's slightly larger with the honeycomb air intakes. You have this kind of painted portion in between the headlight and the lower front fascia. You can see the front bumper also has a different air intake down there at the lower end, and you can see the front end here just also has a different honeycomb signature to it. I don't particularly love this kind of big painted area here on the front end of the Civic. It just kind of makes it look like it has like a big nose to me, but overall it's still a really handsome looking car that I think has aged extremely well. It may even be a little bit too conservative looking. Some people may look at something like the new Kia K4 and find the lines of this car to be a little bit bland and anonymous, but I also think it's still a handsome looking car. The Sport the hatchback basically only comes as a sport trim, either sport touring, or sport hybrid, or sport touring trims. Now moving around the side profile, you can see this is built on a modified platform that essentially underpinned also the 10th generation Civic. This is the 11th gen, but Honda has essentially made it stiffer. They made it stronger. You can see the wheels have been updated. These are the 18-inch wheels with a 6-spoke design and a matte gray finish to them on the inner pockets. I actually really love the way the wheels look. They're riding on a 235/40 R18 Goodyear Eagle Assurance all-season tire. Brake rotors are around 11 inches, all disc brakes, all independent suspension, no adaptive dampers on this car. That's something that I believe the Civic Type R gives you. And then you can see over here the wheel arch trim, or the fenders are completely a full paint finish, which I love. The sport models come with black painted side mirrors. These are not power folding, however, you do have integrated turn signals. And one thing the Civic is lacking is a 360 camera. There's no 360 camera on this vehicle, but you do get parking sensors along the front. That's what I forgot to mention. I also really like the black trim around the windows. There's a standard sunroof on this particular trim here. No pano roof. That sunroof does open up to vent air, which is nice, but I wish Honda would offer, you know, a bigger ultra-wide sunroof like on some competitors. And then looking at the side profile, you can see the hatch model doesn't always look like a hatch, which those of you who don't like the style of a hatchback will like that. However, it is, again, a little bit of a conservative look. The overall length of this car here is around 179 inches with a 107.7-inch wheelbase. It's a little bit shorter than the Toyota Prius, but it also is around 5 inches shorter than the sedan version of this car, so kind of keep that in mind. The hatchback is technically the shorter version of the Civic. You can see the taillights have an LED combination with the LEDs for the taillights themselves. However, the turn signals and the reverse lights are incandescent. That almost looks like a full LED light bar that goes across the back. However, it's not, as you can see. Lots of chrome with badging back here, Civic, Sport Touring, and then your only indication of a hybrid is just that little hybrid badge there. So it's a very subtle look to it. You can see the rear bumper has a more aggressive design to it. However, there is no visible exhaust tips. That's something that the pre-refresh version of the Civic, it used to have a twin outlet exhaust. So now only the SI and the Type R gets an actual exposed exhaust tip. You can see the hatch also includes this nifty little rear wiper, which I love. And I actually think that it's kind of lacking a spoiler back here. It would look much better with the spoiler. Remember, the Type R is going to have that little wing on the back, or that big wing on the back. Now, looking at the cargo area, you can see the Civic offers a generous amount of cargo space under the hatch, up to 25 cubic feet of storage space. I also really like the way this cargo cover looks. You can also take it off and put it on the other side if you'd like. If you look underneath the floor here, you can see the it looks like there's just a fix-a-flat kit, no spare tire, a little bit of underfloor storage over here. And then if you want to fold down the second row seats, Honda allows you to do that from back here, although it's a little bit of a reach. If you fold that down, Honda doesn't have the full cargo capacity with the seats folded, but I would estimate it's probably around 46-ish cubic feet of total cargo space, which is definitely a lot more than the sedan, and it certainly is a very usable amount that approaches what you would get in some really small SUVs. So on the outside of the 2025 Civic, things are pretty conservatively changed. However, on the inside, this is where Honda, again, didn't really make that many changes, but they did upgrade some of the technology features. Now, before we get inside, let me show you guys the key fob. You can see this is the current intelligent access key that comes standard on this Sport Touring trim. It's a nice size key fob that fits nicely in your pocket or purse. There's the usual buttons here for lock, unlock, remote start, power, or open for the trunk, but it's not a power lift gate. It just pops it open, and then there's a panic function. As I approach the vehicle's door handles, you can see it's a traditional door handle here. If you want to lock the vehicle, just touch that little area there. That will lock the door. If you want to unlock it, touch the back of the door handle. That unlocks the door for you. This vehicle does have an auto walk-away lock feature, which is definitely nice. You can also turn that feature on and off, but no power folding mirrors, as I said. Now, my particular test car has a really great color combination, the Boost Blue exterior with the gray leather interior. So I love the fact that Honda offers a light gray interior. There's also a black interior, which is what I showed you guys in that sand dune exterior color in our first drive for this vehicle. The seats themselves, you can see they are covered in a genuine leather material. They are perforated, but sadly they are not ventilated. They're just 3-level heated seats. You have a 10-way power driver's seat, or I'm sorry, it's just an 8-way power because there's no 2-way lumbar support, which is also kind of annoying, although I found the lumbar to be perfect for at least my frame. The passenger seat is just a 4-way power adjustment seat there, so it doesn't actually adjust for height. Looking at the door panels, you can see it has a nice soft touch injection molded plastic with a high quality feeling graining material. You have some piano black plastic here, which I don't love because it shows dust and scratches pretty easily. You can see the door handle is silver painted plastic, accented gray leather here, nice and padded here where you'd rest your elbows. The window controls, one touch up down for the driver and front passenger. However, the rears are not one touch at all. They do have at least a high quality filling switchgear, but I would really like to see power folding mirrors. Down here, it's all hard touch plastic, additional storage, and then Civics finally have an upgraded audio in this trim, a 12 speaker Bose stereo system, which sounds pretty good. And then this Sport Touring also includes the alloy sport pedals, which is definitely a nice touch. Now, guys, as I get inside the vehicle, you can see it's a Civic, so it has a pretty low step-in height. As I shut the door thunk sounds extremely solid, so that adds to that impression of quality. There's the newer Honda chime, and then when you want to turn the vehicle on, you basically just put your foot on the brake, start, stop button, or the power button is located here. It's kind of blocked by the steering wheel. And you can see, because this is a hybrid, the engine just kind of whirs to life. Sometimes it doesn't always turn on, however, but it basically would just say ready in the instrument panel. This is the fully digital 10.2-inch cluster that's standard on this trim. It's not a full 12.3-inch display like some competitors. And then if you guys want this car with the top trim, you get the bigger 9-inch infotainment touchscreen, which has Google built in. In fact, I believe all Civic hybrids now come with the 9-inch display, but if you want the Google built in, you have to go for the Sport Touring trim, which is kind of annoying how Honda makes you go for the top trim. That's kind of how they do it in the Accord as well. This thankfully does have wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. The software has certainly been significantly improved, and with Google built in, you can see Google Maps is now built in, which is also really nice. And then if you want to go into your audio information, there it is there. What Honda did remove, however, is the embedded satellite radio system. So that's something that I wasn't expecting them to do. However, if you want that back, you can basically go into the Google Play Store and bring that back if you'd like, download it, and then you can log in to get the XM radio back. There's also Amazon Alexa built in, but most of you are just going to use your smartphone anyways to basically pull up the navigation system. You can see the steering wheel looks pretty much the same. It has paddles on the wheel to control the 4 levels of regen braking. The wheel itself has a manual tilt telescoping adjustment with a good amount of range, which is nice. You can get a comfortable driving position. I also really like the leather. It feels high quality. It feels nice in your hands. The horn, it sounds really dinky and pathetic, so I don't love the sound of the horn. In terms of the dash materials, you can see this is a soft touch injection molded plastic over here. You have that same cool look with the dashboard vents, which have like almost a single piece there with the honeycomb grille design. Love the fact that Honda has brought back the volume knob for this generation. Obviously, one thing this car is missing, however, is a heated steering wheel. In this cold winter temps, I was really expecting this car to have a heated steering wheel. And again, only 3-level heated seats, no cooled seats. At least you get dual zone climate control with these really high quality feeling knobs to adjust your climate system, which is nice. I don't love the piano black here, which again shows fingerprints and scratches. I also like the way the vents adjust. They just have a nice, easy joystick, and it has a satisfying click when you're adjusting the direction of the airflow. You can see a wireless charging pad is included on this trim, and then this controls the 1-speed reduction gear transmission. Put the car into reverse, you can see there's your backup camera with 3 different views. It has trajectory, it has parking sensors, but no 360 camera. That's a feature that a lot of the competitors in the Civics class are starting to offer, so a little bit annoying that, again, Honda is behind the times there in terms of features. Now down here, I like the fact that Honda resisted the urge to put piano black plastic. Instead, you have this like flat, or a non-piano black, or it's kind of like a shiny gray with this interesting texture. Your drive mode selector is here. There's 4 different modes: an eco mode, normal, a sport, and then an individual mode where you can kind of customize some of the settings to your liking. You can go to customize there. No adaptive dampers, but you can change the way the gauge looks, the engine sounds, the steering, and then of course the powertrain response. So again, that's a nice little touch for this vehicle. Electronic parking brake here. Decent sized cup holders, nice padded center console, and if you open this up, you can see it's relatively deep. Some of my camera gear fits in there pretty nicely. If you're looking for the USBs, however, they are located here. There's 2 USB-C charging ports there. The seats, like I mentioned earlier, are actually real leather, and they are very comfortable and supportive. The heat function works nicely. The lumbar was good for me, even though there's no adjustable lumbar. And then these seats themselves, they look high quality. They look like they were basically lifted out of an Accord, which is nice. If I open up the glove compartment, you can see it's damped but not lined with felt. It's not the biggest glove compartment, so storage space in this car is average, but it's not among the best that you're going to find. Visibility is really good. There's not a single squeak and rattle in this interior. Build quality is among the best you're going to find, so that's something that Honda has typically done really well with. So overall, the interior of the Civic is certainly still a nice place to spend time. Above me, you can see there's a woven material for the headliner. There's also that standard sunroof on this trim, which has a traditional shade that you can open and close, obviously. And then if you look down here in this area, you can see there's still some good storage in the door pockets, but still this is a really nice place to spend time. Moving to the back seat of the Civic Hybrid hatch, this is where if you guys plan to use it as a family vehicle, the Civic can surprisingly deliver a good amount of space. You can see the back seats themselves have the same beautiful gray leather covering to them. You can see the door panel materials sadly are downgraded. They are hard touch plastic here with the same piano black plastic. At least it is nice and padded here where you'd rest your elbows with that same silver painted plastic door handle, a little bit of door pocket storage. These seats, like I mentioned earlier, they do fold down to expand the cargo capacity, which creates an almost flat floor, which is nice. Sadly, however, these seats don't recline to give you a slight recline feature. And then when you want to get back here, you can see the sloping roof does require me to duck my head a little bit, but once I'm back here, this is essentially where I'd have the seat to drive, and you're looking at around 37.5 inches of legroom back here. 37.5 is certainly good. This is more space versus what you're going to find in this car's main rival, the Toyota Prius. You can see there is a hump here for the middle passenger, and sadly, there are no features back here. No vents, no USB-C charging ports, no heated back seats. You do have just one storage cubby there on the passenger side, and at least Honda does give you an armrest with the cup holders here in the armrest itself. And then in terms of the headroom space, you can see there is a pretty good, maybe 2 inches of clearance for me at 5'7", but I have to say for a sport touring model and the fact that this is missing any kind of, at least vents back here, it's a little disappointing, and it kind of reminds you that Honda is cost cutting a little bit when you go into the backseat area. So here we are back behind the wheel of the return for the Civic Hybrid. As you guys know, the Civic Hybrid powertrain took a break for the 10th generation, but I'm really happy that it's back for the 11th generation model because it is a powertrain that Honda has needed to put back in the Civic Hybrid or in the Civic for a while, especially when they discontinued the Insight, because the Insight essentially took the place of the Civic Hybrid back when the 10th generation was out. Now, I had a chance to drive this vehicle in Nashville about 2 to 3 months ago where I was pretty impressed with the overall package. As you guys also know, Honda gave their Civic Hybrid or the Civic family a slight refresh for 2025. This hybrid powertrain is the most powerful hybrid that you're going to find in this particular segment. Up to 200 horsepower combined, a stout 232 foot-pounds of torque, and plus this thing just drives like an electric car that has a gas engine that functions as a generator because it primarily gets most of its propulsion from the 181 horsepower electric traction motor, which is a pretty good amount of power. Now, the last time I 0 to 60 tested this car, I got 6.9 seconds with Rob in the car with me. This time, however, I'm by myself. We have the vehicle in sport mode, and let's see if we can get a slightly faster time on our usual stretch of road. We're gonna go ahead and brake torque it. It feels really good. It just doesn't sound wonderful, but wow, 6.37 seconds, 0 to 60 in 6.4 seconds, basically. That is very impressive. And I have to say that's almost a half a second faster than when I first tested this car. And to be honest, that time is more closely aligns with what other publications were getting. They were getting in the 6.5 second range. So the Civic Hybrid is definitely the speed king in this segment. I mean, you could also compare this car to a Toyota Prius, and the last Prius that I tested with front wheel drive took about 6.9 seconds as well. So that's a very impressive time, and that makes me happy as a driving enthusiast because this will smoke basically even a Civic Si. That's right, a Civic Si is almost a full second slower to 60, which just makes me sad to think that it's actually that much slower. Let's try another run here. This time, however, we won't brake torque it. We're just gonna floor it. It starts to fake gear shifts when you don't brake torque it, which effectively does slow the 0 to 60 time down to 7.67 seconds. Now that's with it more going slightly uphill. So I'll try it one more time on our third run there where it's on a level surface, but I won't brake torque it again because that's the number that most people are gonna get. Most people, when they drive this car, are not going to brake torque it to basically force the transmission to not initiate those fake shifts. Those fake shifts are obviously better for, you know, just drivability and just making it feel more conventional, but they aren't good for getting the quickest 0 to 60 time. What the Civic Hybrid is really good at, though, is handling dynamics. This chassis of this 11th gen Civic is excellent. I mean, this is the basis for the amazing Honda Civic Type R, which remains one of the best handling front-wheel drive vehicles out on the planet. And this chassis just feels like it's ready for more. The steering is quick, taut, really controlled. The car itself, the suspension is all independent, and it feels like it is a driver's car. And that's what I love about the Civic. It has a stiff chassis, but it also doesn't have a busy ride quality that beats you up. It's got a smooth and compliant ride quality, even though we are on a 235 width by 45 18-inch tire, a Goodyear Eagle all season, which aren't the best tires in terms of noise suppression. I do hear a fair amount of road noise coming in, which isn't good for the hybrid because this powertrain is even quieter than the base Civic naturally aspirated engine. So you're going to hear more of that road noise coming in. You're going to hear some of that engine sound, even though like the engine itself doesn't always provide actual power to the drive wheels. It's primarily functioning to recharge the very small 1.1 kilowatt hour battery pack. Oh, so much torque. This thing literally will smoke the inside rear wheel, because remember, this is only front wheel drive. That's where I think Honda has a little bit of a missed opportunity here. They could have put all wheel drive in this vehicle. The CR-V has all wheel drive. That would have really expanded the appeal of the Civic Hybrid even more so. But if you guys are missing the fact that the turbo is not available in the non-SI anymore, don't. Take one drive in the hybrid and you're going to be instantly converted, and you'll realize why Honda decided to not do a turbo engine this time for the non-SI. We'll try another run here, this time without brake torquing it again. Feels really conventional. 6.92 seconds there. So when you brake torque it and it gets rid of the shifting, you literally shave almost a half a second off the 0 to 60 time. But when you brake torque it, if you want the quickest time, brake torque it and you'll get 6.4 seconds all day long. And that's really impressive for a car that will do 50 city, 45 highway MPG, which we'll talk about that in just a moment. In normal driving, you can feel and hear that sound, which I actually think it's a very pleasant sound. I like the shifts, the fake shifts that you get from this transmission, even though it's a direct drive transmission that functions like an ECVT. These paddles on the wheel control the 4 different levels of regen braking, which at the maximum level, it's not a one pedal drive, but it's nice to have the regen braking in this mode. I'm gonna switch the drive mode here back into normal out of sport mode. And this is where in sport or in normal mode, it gets rid of the fake engine sounds. There's not quite as much. You still hear actual engine sounds, but in sport mode, it's actually amplifying the engine sound through the speakers. It sounds pretty good, but this is the mode that most people are going to drive it in. In fact, if you want even the most efficiency, you're going to have it in its eco mode, and this is where it's going to quiet everything down. It's going to make it feel a little bit slower as well, but you're going to get the best fuel efficiency when you're in this mode. Honda's latest Honda Sensing driver assist technology is pretty good. It has the lane keep function, has adaptive cruise control with low speed follow, automatic emergency braking. It's not a full hands-free like for miles or hours where it uses like cameras and LiDAR sensors like that, but it does work extremely well, and the seats in this car are also really comfortable. This is just an excellent, excellent commuter car. I mean, it would be tough for me to pick between the Prius, the new Prius, and of course the Civic Hybrid. This is definitely the sportier feeling vehicle, the quicker accelerating car. However, it doesn't get as good as the Prius in terms of real-world fuel efficiency, because this car has a pretty small 10.6 gallon fuel tank. It's supposed to get 48 mpg combined. However, in my week's worth of testing, now granted it's in the 30-degree temps, on the highway, the best that I could get was just under 40 mpg, about 39 miles to the gallon, which is far below the 45 that the EPA says it should get. And then combined driving, I was getting around 43 mpg in mixed driving. That's a mixture of city, highway, mostly city, stop and go. Obviously, the hybrids get better gas mileage in the city, and that is pretty much the same gas mileage as what I got in the Civic Hybrid back in Tennessee when I first had a chance to drive it, and it is disappointing. I was expecting this car to get closer to 50 mpg. The new Prius will easily do that figure, close to 50 all day long without even trying. So that kind of shows you that Honda's hybrid system is tuned a little bit more for performance. It's quicker, obviously. It has a more conventional feel to it, but it also still gives you that instantaneous electric motor torque. As soon as you put your foot down, there's no waiting for a transmission to shift. There's no waiting for an engine to rev. There's no waiting for a turbo to spool up. It just has that power right then and there. It's instant, and it makes it feel more like an EV. But then if you put your foot down a little bit harder, you hear the engine come on to kind of recharge the battery and also provide a little bit of power to the wheels at higher speeds. So the seamless nature of the hybrid system is excellent. The acceleration is also excellent. The ride quality is good. The handling dynamics are excellent. The visibility and the seat comfort's excellent. What falls short for me a little bit is the real world fuel economy, because with that small 10.5 gallon fuel tank, this car theoretically should do almost 500 miles of range on a full tank, but the best that I was able to do was around 400 miles of range on a full tank because it has such a small 10.5 gallon fuel tank. That makes this car feel a little bit thirstier than it is, although the fill-ups are going to be really cheap, so it's still a very economical car. But I kind of wish that Honda would have kept the bigger 12.5 gallon fuel tank, or perhaps even kept like a 14 gallon fuel tank. They had to take it out, obviously, to make room for the battery pack. But overall, aside from fuel efficiency that's a little bit lower than its main rival, the Toyota Prius, this is definitely the driver's car in this segment, and it's also the quickest accelerating and most powerful hybrid in the compact mainstream car segment. So here in America, Honda managed to sell a little over 200,000 units for the Civic in general, which was a pretty decent sales figure. However, for 2024, as of November of this year, sales for the Civic actually have been up a pretty significant margin. The company has managed to do a little over 223,000, and that's not including the month of December for sales. So I estimate that Honda could be on track to do around 250,000 units, which is a pretty good increase. And it really shows you how Honda has managed to expand the appeal of the Civic with the refresh and, of course, with the addition of this hybrid powertrain. The company basically says that about 32.5% of all Civic sales this year have been the hybrid model, which is, again, very impressive. And it really shows you that people want to buy a hybrid even in this compact mainstream sedan segment. So after spending a full week with the 2025 Civic Hybrid, this is definitely one of my favorite powertrains that Honda has done. I mean, while it is basically an average powertrain in the Accord and in the CR-V, here in the lighter Civic, it certainly transforms this vehicle. As you guys saw, 0 to 60 happens in just under 6.4 seconds, which is very impressive. This is the quickest accelerating non-Type R Civic in the lineup, just as Honda says. It's just kind of embarrassing to say how a Civic Si is nearly a second slower 0 to 60 versus this model. You're going to have to get a Type R to keep up with this car, which again, a Type R does it in around 5.4 seconds, depending on how aggressive you're dumping that clutch and how much traction you're getting from those front wheels. The technology in this car with the new Google system built in is certainly an improvement with the improved software. However, I don't like how Honda has removed the XM satellite radio. That's a personal preference for me because I use satellite radio, but Honda did say that you can basically just download XM from the Google Play Store, and you can kind of get it back through that way. So that kind of addresses my concern there. The screen is definitely still a little bit on the small side, and there are some features that Honda is missing in this car that I think that they should include, especially at this price point. For example, cooled seats are not available, memory seats are not available. You cannot get this vehicle with a bigger screen or a 360 camera, no rear seat air vents, no heated back seats. Those are features that a lot of its competitors like the new Kia K4 or Mazda 3 certainly offer. So I'm a little annoyed that Honda has not expanded the availability of those features. They essentially want you to buy an Accord to get that. Even the CR-V lacks ventilated seats, which I find to be extremely annoying. The ride quality is really good. The handling dynamics are excellent. The car is quick. The car is fuel efficient, but it also lags the Toyota Prius in terms of fuel efficiency in my real world testing by about 5 mpg. So if that makes a difference to you, you're going to want to choose the Prius for the efficiency leader, but this is still significantly more fuel efficient than a non-hybrid version of the Civic. So I would say that Honda has certainly delivered a much better powertrain here, and it is going to be worth the extra $1,500 that Honda charges if you want the hybrid powertrain in the hatch, because at a base price of $29,950, this is again around $1,500 more than the non-hybrid version of the Civic hatchback. The sedan starts at around $24,250. That's of course plus the destination charge. Go for the touring trim that I'm showing you here, and you add in the destination charge and the $455 paint charge that this Boost Blue will bring, and you're looking at an as-tested price of $34,500. That's right, we are looking at spending about 35 grand for a Civic now. Now this is around $3,000 more expensive versus the new Kia K4 GT Line Turbo that I recently just tested, although I would argue that this car is sportier to drive, gets better fuel efficiency, is quicker, and it also has a better ride and handling balance, although the Kia I think is a better looking vehicle and has much better technology. And that's again where Honda leaves something on the table here. They really need to improve their feature set list for this car, even though it is an entry-level car, and they've certainly made it better over the years. Competitors continuously improve, and that's kind of where Honda needs to kind of be one step ahead in order to keep pace with the rest of the competition. But if you're okay with the fact that it doesn't have some of those premium features that some competitors have, and it's not quite as fuel efficient as a Prius, I would happily say put one of these at the very top of your list, especially if you guys are considering a Civic. The hybrid is definitely the powertrain to get now that it's back for 2025. But with all that said, hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on the brand new 2025 Honda Civic Hybrid in the Sport Touring hatchback trim. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at Redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.